By the way, got a little breaking news. Joe, do you see this? Russell Wilson finalizing a deal with CBS Sports to be an analyst for the network next year. Russell Wilson with James Brown, Nate Burleson, and Bill Cowher. Interesting.
Is he done playing?
Apparently he has a backup role like on the table somewhere in the NFL, but he's electing to do analyst work instead.
All right, Hall of Famer, yes or no? Not on first ballot, just is he a Hall of Famer, yes or no?
No. I think the back half of his career was so awful, he is not a Hall of Famer.
God, he really revolutionized his play style, the size. There's so much that he did well.
If it was against the 49ers only, yes, Hall of Famer.
I would have bet everything he was going to be a Hall of Famer 5 years ago.
Let's ask Jennifer Lee Chan, who joins us now.
I don't know.
She's watched a lot of Russell Wilson. 888-957-9570. Jennifer Lee Chan joining us now on the River Islands guest line. As all guests in 95.7 The Game appear on the River Islands guest line, covers the 49ers for NBC Sports Bay Area. Joe Spadoni alongside Joe Shasky. And let me ask you real quick, Jennifer, in light of recent news that I guess Russell Wilson's going to be a broadcaster with CBS next year, you think he's a Hall of Famer?
Oh, do you want me to make 49ers faithful mad at me?
Put you on the spot.
To keep my audience watching me and listening to me, I'm going to say no.
There you go. We love it. Non-partial, impartial in all ways, Joe.
Is Brock Purdy a Hall of Famer? I'm just joking. I don't want to do that to you. What happened last week, Jen? You've been following this team for a long, long time. They were back at practice, but it didn't feel like everyone was there. So what exactly was last week for the team, for the fans that aren't even realizing that the Niners gathered last week for practices?
Oh, okay, so they were all there except for Trent Williams, and Trent Williams will be there this week. So basically everyone was there. There were people that did not practice when we had open practice. Christian McCaffrey actually did practice the day before, which was Wednesday, but Thursday he didn't. So he's like, you guys just all missed the day I was out on the field. All the guys that are rehabbing from injuries were there. So 99.9% attendance except for Trent Williams. So basically everybody was there. They're going through meetings, meeting each other. The veterans and the rookies are working out together. So the first, 11-on-11 work that happened on the field was last week. So it's getting going. They're ramping it up.
Jennifer Lee Chan joining us here on the River Islands guest line. And Jennifer, today's obviously a big day around the NFL landscape, June 1st. If you're a fan, you always hear this thing, post June 1st designation, whether it comes to trades, releases, et cetera, et cetera. Why is this a big day for the 49ers, and in particular with one 49er, Brandon Aiyuk?
Yes, he is still on the roster as of right now, as of what we all know. So it's up to the Niners to make the next move. Brandon Aiyuk, there's been several stories out. Do teams want to trade for him? Do they not want to trade for him? The 49ers want to get some sort of something back for him as opposed to just releasing him. But I guess we'll just wait to see what happens.
I'm having a hard time with the Aiyuk, just the whole thing, because I'm not sure what's real, what's not. From your vantage point, like what is real? Like, I'm talking about the social media posts, the pictures, because I've seen some are AI generated photos. Like,
oh God,
no, because you're a real journalist. That's why I'm asking. Like, how have you been able to sift through what's real and what's not? Because I'm having a hard time following.
Basically, only things that he puts out himself. If he is actually speaking on another player's podcast, I guess, and what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have said, and Jed York, repeatedly throughout the offseason, they've all said, hey, he's probably played his last snap with the 49ers. We'd love to trade for him. John Lynch, hilariously holding up his phone. We're open for business. Call us. I think those are just the true storylines you have to hold on to.
Is it? I mean, there's no world where he ever plays for this team again, is there?
Can't be.
I don't think so. I don't think that's possible. Jed York kind of threw that out there like, oh, you never know. We'd love to have him. He's talented. But I just don't think that is a reality.
So let me roll through the wide receivers who are on this team, because I think this is important. We ended last year and it felt like we had no healthy wide receivers. Jennings is gone. Insert Mike Evans. How has he looked to you?
He was not at practice on Thursday because he took care of some family business in Texas, so we haven't seen him on the field yet. But we did see Christian Kirk, and just watching him where he was out there, and this is obviously very, very early 11-on-11 work, but just really nice, easy checkdowns, routes in the flat. He was there when, there weren't any other receivers open, just a guy who's in there for those, shorter yard distances, and looks like he's fitting into the offense pretty quickly.
What about Ricky Pearsall?
Looks healthy. He's out there. He's practicing, always, dancing around on the field, 11-on-11 work, having a good time. Also looks healthy. Jordan Watkins is out there looking like he did last year in camp. And, of course, Dejon Stribling, just, a guy who has shown a little bit of his speed. We haven't seen a lot of him, but, he's out there running routes and catching passes as well. So, I mean, it's a fully fleshed out group of wide receivers as of right now.
Who's returning kicks? Is you didn't mention Jacob Cowing, so I'm just wondering, did they do any punt return stuff? Because they lost, obviously, Sky Moore, and that's a big loss, I feel like. Right.
So Jacob Cowing was out there. He looked great as well. They were only doing punts when we were out there off the jugs. So Christian Kirk was back there. Jordan Watkins was back there. Jacob Cowing as well. So those three guys and one of the undrafted free agents was back there.
Jennifer Lee Chan joining us here on the River Islands guest line, covers the 49ers for NBC Sports Bay Area. And Jennifer, who's the RB2 right now? Or I guess who's the front runner in your mind heading into next season? A lot was made last year about the amount of touches that Christian McCaffrey got. Obviously, he was at times their best running back and wide receiver. I know Niners fans would like to see that reduced a little bit, although Kyle Shanahan, he loves to run his RB1. Brian Robinson really wasn't that guy for them. I know they made the trade. It just never really felt like it worked out. Jordan James doesn't get his first snaps all season until the divisional round in Seattle. Was kind of crazy. Obviously, Garendo dealing with an injury. Kalen Black that just drafted. How do you see the RB2 battle shaping up here?
I mean, it really was Kalen Black, and he was back there a lot, and Jordan James. Both those two guys were the ones who were taking most of the carries at practice because Christian McCaffrey was sitting out when we watched. So I would think it's between those two guys for sure. It just depends on how Kalen Black picks up the offense. It's in a detailed offense as far as, rookies coming in. So they have to know everybody, what all 11 are doing on the field. So it's pass protection. It's, blocking. It's all of that stuff. So if Kalen Black can pick up on it really quickly, he's definitely in direct competition with Jordan James. But I think it's between those two for sure.
Interesting. What about the offensive line? I mean, it felt like the season, was ebbs and flows. The offensive line was a huge story. Obviously, through the draft, the offensive line was a huge story. So who's starting at left guard right now? Because that's kind of the one spot that feels like it's up in the air.
That's definitely an open competition, between a lot of the guys that are there. We talked to Colton McKivitz after practice, and he felt like Connor Colby, the rookie from last year, has done a really nice job working throughout the offseason, paying attention to what's going on, and he thought he was doing a really nice job. So there was definitely rotation at that position. So that's, again, something that's, it's too early to tell at this point, but we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that during training camp.
Jennifer, are we past the substation now? Can we finally put the substation talk to bed? Is the locker room, more importantly, still talking about the substation at all?
It's not spoken about in the building. It's really only spoken about outside the building. And if you really want to go numbers-wise only for the 49ers injuries versus the other teams in the NFL, it's not overly, it's not higher than everybody else in the league. It's just that last year it was all the star players that were hurt. So it was, who got injured as opposed to how many people got injured. I know that's not, what 49ers faithful want to believe. They want to believe there's some other entity that's causing their team not to make it to the Super Bowl. But honestly, if you look at it, it just was every player that was a starter. Those are the guys that got hurt. So it made it very difficult for them to stay healthy throughout the season.
Was George Kittle there? Obviously, he's got the torn Achilles right now. How's he looking?
He was there. He was doing some sideline stepping. He was working out with Brett Toth on the side with the medical staff during practice. So he looks like he's, potentially, if anyone can come back at the beginning of the season, it's George Kittle. But, maybe it's, a little bit later. He did it so late in the season, but, he's walking normally. He's kind of doing light footwork, normally, so you never know.
All right, so give me tight end 1 through 3, or if there are more in your eyes. Like, who would be the starter right now if they had to play a game?
Oh, I mean, well, it's the guys that were there last year. So, I mean, definitely Luke Farrell is out there. He was out there catching passes as well. Jake Tonjes, he was out there. So, I mean, both those two guys are going to be at the top because they know the system. They've worked with Kyle Shanahan. They've been there. Interestingly, Jake Tonjes has the same agent as Dejon Stribling. So those two guys know each other. Yeah, they've and Jake Tonjes, I mean, nice work last year with the Jake Hands Tonjes catching all the passes that were thrown to him.
Jennifer Lee Chan, 49ers insider for NBC Sports Bay Area, joining us here on the Morning Roast, Spadoni and Shasky. Speaking on the injury front, Mykel Williams, Nick Bosa, how are these guys looking? It must have been an encouraging sign for Niner fans just to listen to Nick Bosa at the podium. Mm-hmm. Does that give any signal that he could be here sooner rather than later?
I mean, he says he plans to be ready. Those are direct words from his mouth. So I would think that he'll be ready for week 1. He said he's trying to take it slower than he did the last time he had an ACL injury. So he said he feels really good, and I would expect him to be ready. Mykel Williams, again, has happened a little bit later. We've seen him kind of working out on the side field as well. His return might be a little later, but, those guys all rehab together, which is kind of, good for each other's mental support.
Dre Greenlaw, are they putting too much in, like the Dre will be ready to go and be a full participant all year basket?
I mean, he should be. He said he started to feel like himself last year. So he was out there not practicing. He and Fred Warner were just kind of tossing the ball back and forth, and it was like business as usual for those two out there. So I would expect that he will be the weak side linebacker.
Is there any young player that you saw on defense who's really standing out? Romello Height, one of the secondary players. Yeah, who looks good?
Romello Height, exactly what you said. I mean, just watching him do drills. I was watching the offensive line while there were 7-on-7s going on, and I was watching the defensive line was to my left, and someone moved really quickly, and I turned and looked, and it was him. Just ability to change directions really quickly is what it feels like. I don't know because I'm not Chris Kasarik, but Nick Bosa also said that he feels like he's much more polished as a rookie than a lot of guys who have come in have been. So just his ability to bend and move the way he does, kind of a more unique guy that way. So he's definitely a guy to watch.
How does that 7-on-7 look different with Raheem Morris running things as opposed to Robert Saleh? Is there, 5 guys on the line, 3-4, 4-3? Like, what is it looking like?
Well, so the 7-on-7s are just no linemen. So when it was 11s with the linemen in there, you didn't see much difference. It's pretty vanilla at this point. I think they're just trying to, see who goes up against who. No real scheme changes from our ability to notice at this point.
Jennifer, great stuff. We really appreciate the time this morning. We'll do it again in the future.